Harriet Ross Tubman. Her life was dedicated to people around her, and to this day, her memory continues to guide and inspire. This is the timeline of her life. Her life began on March 6, 1820. At around age 5, she started to work as a house servant. She worked as a cook. From a young age, she would oppose actions of her master and showed she would sacrifice herself for others. Later on in 1844, Harriet married to her first husband, John Tubman, who was a free man. She took her name Harriet in honor of her mom, Harriet Green, and Tubman was from her first husband, John Tubman. Marrying as a slave wasn't allowed, but he entered a martial union and changed her name. They later separated because he rejected the idea of her escaping. In 1849, she managed to escape with her two brothers. They escaped to Pennsylvania, but her brothers got nervous and they headed back without her. From 1850 to 1860, she freed many other slaves in the Underground Railroad. She guided them through the Underground Railroad to Pennsylvania until the Fugitive Slave Act was created. This allowed fugitives in the North to be caught by their Southern slave masters if they escaped. So this way, she rerouted to Canada. During this time, there was a $40,000 reward to find her. On top of that, she traveled on foot to Maryland 19 times and rescued over 300 strangers, friends, and family. The picture to the right shows the route of the Underground Railroad she led. In 1859, Harriet bought her first house in Auburn, New York. This was a milestone for her. She spent the rest of her life in this house. On June 2nd, 1863, she became the first woman to lead an army raid. Under the Union commander, James Montgomery, she led over 850 people in the Combahee Ferry raid during the Civil War. On the upper left corner is a picture of her house, and in the upper right corner is a picture of her leading the army raid. In 1869, Harriet married her second husband named Nelson Davis. He was a veteran from the Civil War. Together, they had a baby girl named Gertie. On the left side is a picture of their family. In the 1890s, Harriet continued to fight for women's suffrage and even worked with Susan B. Anthony to speak at many events. On March 10th, 1913, Harriet died in Auburn, New York. She died due to a surgery she did to fix her head injuries from her early childhood. On the bottom right corner is a picture of her tombstone. Some of her milestones included being the conductor of the Underground Railroad and freeing over 300 slaves over the course of the Civil War. She carried this out all while having a huge bounty on her head. During her life, she worked as a nurse, Union spy, and a women's suffrage supporter. When the Civil War first broke out, her knowledge of herbal medicines helped to treat the sick. In the upper right corner is a picture of herbal medicines. When Tubman was 12, she was hit in the head by a brick as she was defending another servant. This injury caused many injuries in her head for the rest of her life. On the picture in the lower left-hand corner is a picture of the Underground Railroad. Thank you, folks. This is a slide of all of our resources. Thank you for listening.